Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Ron Kuby, a well-renowned civil rights and civil libertarian attorney, also the attorney for Stephen Donziger. Stephen Donziger is a human rights attorney who, as we've spoken about before, in my view, has been railroaded by Chevron and sympathetic, connected judges, prosecutors to Chevron. If you don't know the story, Stephen Donziger and his team won a historic settlement against Chevron, upwards of $9.5 billion. Chevron was forced to pay. Instead of paying that settlement for poisoning the Amazon in Ecuador, Chevron instead has went on several million dollar campaign against the lawyer who won the settlement against them. So, Ron, the reason I'm interviewing on a Saturday is Stephen was released from federal prison several weeks ago to serve the rest of his 6-month sentence under house arrest. In totality, between house arrest and federal prison, he has been under detainment now for well over 900 days. And he even recently had his ankle monitor removed under house arrest. But several days ago, unexpectedly, he was removed from his home and forced to a halfway house. Can you tell me what happened several days ago?
Last Thursday, Stephen got a call at 7:30 in the morning from the halfway house saying, report to the halfway house and bring clothes. So what is happening here? It's not a command you can resist, and they did not provide any reason. But you still have to do what they say, ultimately, because if you don't, they can send you right back to federal prison. The indication of bringing clothes meant that he was not going to be immediately sent back to a federal prison because they provide clothing for you there. Very nice that way. But when he reported to the halfway house, he was told he was confined there for an indeterminate period of time. Now, remember, most people in halfway houses are people who are serving the last 6 months of usually a very long sentence. People serving 30 years, they eventually transition down to more to lesser secure facilities. Ultimately, they spend the last 6 months in a halfway house. They can come and go. They go outside, get air. They can go to work and the like. They just have to report back. Stephen was and is being held in lockdown at the halfway house. He cannot leave. He cannot go for a stroll. He doesn't have any of the privileges that other people in the halfway house have right now. So what happened? Apparently, the day before, he had his ankle monitor removed. The ankle monitor electronic system reported that while he was still in his building, he was at a lower floor in the building than his apartment unit. And that triggered an alert. And because these things are not just sensitive to location, they're sensitive to height. So in theory, if you go down to get your mail, you're in violation. And it triggered an alert. And then at some level at the Bureau of Prisons, we don't know what it was, it triggered an incident report. So he's formally charged with noncompliance with a condition. It's the least significant classification of incident report, but it is there, and he is being held pending resolution of that. The resolution could be anything. They could simply release him on Monday or Sunday saying, don't do it again. Just, make sure you're always inside your apartment. They could send him back to federal prison. They could keep him in the halfway house. It's a completely arbitrary system, and they can pretty much do whatever they want. It's hard to imagine that Stephen's alleged downstairs trip is of much penological concern to anybody. I mean, we've seen this here, for example, of Michael Cohen, the attorney for Donald Trump, not just ignoring home confinement, but being very publicly situated in an outdoor restaurant, throwing down drinks for hours at a time. So it's hard to know what's going on here. And again, I don't want to be the person who's always claiming plot and conspiracy and retaliation, but It really does kind of look like that.
Well, can you just flesh out as best you can the legal part of this? Is it the federal prison gets an alert from the monitor that he's at a lower height, and then the judge in the case ordered him to the halfway house? How does this work? Who orders him to the halfway house?
This is all done through the executive branch, through the Bureau of Prisons.
Okay.
The head of the executive branch is a guy who appears periodically on television, a guy named Joe Biden, and he is the ultimate decider. Now,
Gotcha.
I don't think this made it to his level, but these are his people. This is his system. He's the one responsible.
And I would assume, based on all the, I would say, unusually harsh treatment of Mr. Donziger over the last several years, that if this were a different person under house arrest, that they might have seen that he was not in his actual apartment, but maybe at a lower height, getting the mail, walking through the building to stretch his legs, that they might not have thrust him out of his home to a halfway house?
Nope, they wouldn't have. I mean, this would have been, especially since he's been fully compliant in every respect. So the way this ordinarily would be handled would be he would get a phone call saying, don't go to lower elevations in your building. Just stay right there, snug and tight in your unit. He would say, sorry, the bathroom was broken. I had to pee downstairs or whatever the reason was. And that would be the end of it. But as with all things Donziger, there is nothing normal about anything in this case.
Well, obviously, I know you're a lawyer, so you're going to go based on facts, but I will interject some other things. It seems like interesting timing that, Stephen was posting understandably gleeful and happy images of him having his ankle bracelet removed.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's certain corporations that have been persecuting Stephen that might not like those kind of images, and that, he only spent a short period of time in federal prison.
Yeah.
Not that, it was still several weeks he was in federal prison, but it just seems like interesting timing that he posts the image of, hey, I finally have freedom from this ankle bracelet. There's an outpouring of support and excitement that he has removed this ankle bracelet. And then shortly after that, on this kind of technicality, he's hauled back into a halfway house. I don't know. You're the lawyer. I know you could only state what you know, but it seems like that there could theoretically have been some involvement outside the federal prison system to flag that or to urge that he be put into a halfway house.
Yeah. I think you're almost certainly correct that the sight of Stephen, who the federal judge wanted to so badly to be in prison until mid-April. She did, gave him the maximum possible sentence and refused to grant him bail pending appeal. That appeal, by the way, is still pending. That somebody may have seen Stephen, I don't know, gloating about the fact that his ankle monitor had been removed. And gotten sufficiently exercised about it that they contacted somebody or somebodies in the Bureau of Prisons, which triggered this. I think that's almost certainly the reason. I mean, especially since the violation allegedly took place on February 3rd, before he got his ankle monitor off. So if this was, kind of prisoner escape, lights lighting up and, machine gunners at the towers, you would have thought they would have not taken off his ankle monitor, but there you go.
Right. And I also want to show, this news pretty, is not old. This just came out, but already you even have Congress people outraged about this. This is from Congressman Jim McGovern. I am deeply alarmed and concerned by this update from Stephen Donziger. Nobody should be treated like this, and human rights lawyers fighting for justice should not face retaliation for their work ever. This is not okay. That's just one congressperson. I haven't had time to look at other responses, but it seems like, people are beginning to, I mean, this is just getting absurd. I mean, it's already been absurd. So many abnormalities. He's had the longest house arrest for a misdemeanor contempt of court. The fact that he didn't get a jury trial. I mean, the list goes on and on. But now, because he was roaming around the apartment, I mean, isn't there rules under house arrest that you have some capacity to exercise or walk as long as it's not outside the building?
Apparently not. Apparently, whatever conditions they imposed upon him required him to be in the actual apartment unit, not, gallivanting around the actual building, doing God knows what.
Right. It's crazy. So,
how those Upper West Side apartment buildings are, the laundry room, hotbed of arms dealing,
From a legal perspective, what's the latest? Have you had correspondence with the halfway house? I assume you're taking measures to get him, released back to his apartment.
There are minimal measures that we can take. He is entitled to a hearing on these allegations, a hearing which, whether guilty or not, even if he is completely not guilty of lowering himself to a different floor, he's going to be found guilty anyway, because that's the way prison disciplinary proceedings work. What the punishment for this most minor of technical violations is going to be is very much in the discretion of the Bureau of Prisons. And hopefully people will see this. They will act. Amnesty International has expressed, again, its grave concern about what's being done to Mr. Donziger. And maybe the Bureau of Prisons will make the executive decision that, send him home with a note to his wife. Don't let him outside the apartment until April 15th or whatever his sentence expiration date is. And this will be over. On the other hand, there is no possible way to overestimate the vindictiveness and petty cruelty of the people who are angry at Stephen Donziger. I mean, every time you think you've seen them at their meanest and smallest, they get littler and uglier. So I'm not making any bets on this one.
My last question. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. You've had high profile clients. Have you ever seen anything like this before in terms of
anything like this? When I first got this case, people told me about it. And I said, this cannot possibly be true, right? This, because frequently defendants wanting me to take their case, they kind of overstate the drama and what's actually happened. And I was told that Chevron, the trial judge in the Chevron case, Kaplan, picked a private prosecutor from the oil and gas industry, drew up the charges even after the United States Attorney's Office refused to prosecute. And then Judge Kaplan handpicks the judge and remains the judge on the case. And I said, that cannot be true. And it's all true. And look, this may not be the most consequential incarceration in the history of American mass incarceration, but it is unique in terms of its ugly, petty vindictiveness and the willingness of Chevron and the acquiescence of the federal judiciary to destroy the life and ultimately take away the freedom of the person who filed a lawsuit.
And I'll just lastly point out, because again, we spoke about this, but timing wise, this is Stephen's tweet on February 4th. Breaking, the ankle bracelet has been hacked off and I'm heading home. The black claw was both a real and symbolic taking by Chevron of my freedom and peace of mind for 913 days. And then he shows the image of the ankle bracelet being removed. That's February 4th. And as you pointed out, the alleged war crime of leaving his actual apartment and roaming the building was the day before. So the timing is certainly interesting, Ron.
I mean, look, had Stephen called me in advance, little pro tip here, and told me, hey, I'm going to post a tweet with the broken ankle monitor and me with a big sloppy grin on my face. You think that's a good idea? I would probably have told him, you know what, just keep that on the DL till you finish your sentence. But look, if Stephen was not the person that he is, he would not be in the trouble he was in. He would never have started down this road in the first place if he actually had less passion and more judgment.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ron Kuby. You are a well-renowned civil rights, civil liberties attorney, also representing Stephen Donziger. Thanks for doing this on short notice on the weekend. We need to get this out because it's kind of outrageous at this point. It's been outrageous, but it's getting Banana Republic outrageous.
Yeah. I mean, you continue. You run out of similes after a while. This is like, and yeah, I get it. So we should come up with some new similes. Take care. Free Donziger.
And that's freedonziger.org, I believe.
I don't know. I don't tweet. I don't have it. I barely have a website. It's Free Donziger. Go to look up Free Donziger. You'll find everything you need.
It's freedonziger.com. I just got it. Thank you, Ron.
A pleasure. Take care.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.